Hello and welcome back to the Orlando Adventures podcast. I'm your host Russ, and today's episode is the Orlando bucket list one. So there's quite a few things in Orlando that I probably haven't done. There's quite a lot of things in Orlando that I would like to do as well. So I basically wanted to compile a list, and you know what? I wasn't really sure what to call it. I've done things like the must-dos, I've done all that kind of stuff, but I haven't really done necessarily like a main future plans of this is stuff I've got to get in. I know that obviously in the 2025 one, I did talk about things that I kind of want to do this year, but I didn't get into like specifics. And a lot of the stuff kind of like on this list isn't necessarily going to be this year. It might not be in my next trip, whatever that may be. But you know what? There's quite a lot of things on here, and inevitably, like things are always going to get added to this kind of list, and it's not a bucket list in terms of I want to do these in a worst case scenario. It's a bucket list in terms of these are things that I really do want to do. They are certainly on a list of things that I really want to experience at some point. And you know what? Like not to take the podcast down a level, but I am so appreciative. I really am. I'm so appreciative of the fact that I do get to go to Orlando and I get to enjoy it in the way that I do. So I will never ever take that for granted. I really won't. And I'm sure that everybody is the same as well. When you kind of like take a step back and go, you know what? We are lucky. We are lucky that we get to go to this place that we absolutely love and adore in Orlando and Disney and Universal. And you know what? A lot of us, we do go fairly frequently. And I know that it's a little bit of a running joke of the once in a lifetime holiday. But you know what? For some people it is. And it is because this trip, it is expensive. And I know that. And I never want to kind of like joke about it too much, because I do know that for some people this it's a real investment. It really is. And some people work so insanely hard and for such long amounts of time to be able to make a trip like this a reality. So I just want to kind of get that out of the way. Like I love this community. I love it to absolute bits, as you all know. So I am appreciative. I love it. I know how lucky I am. But at the same time, you know what? I do work really hard. I work really hard in the background, and as we all do, as everybody does who is able to go on any of these trips, we all work super hard in the background to be able to make this a reality. We make sacrifices in, like our home and social lives that realistically, I think a lot of us probably don't do a mega amount of things socially at home because we're kind of putting those extra dollars away, so to speak, for this trip to Orlando. So, you know what? I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a passion. I mean, obviously I do the podcast. It is a passion of mine to talk about Orlando, and above all else is a passion to go there. It is a place that is so special. And you know what? If I get the opportunity to do this at any point, I'm absolutely buzzing. And for any length of time as well, I'm just absolutely over the moon with any opportunity I get to go to Orlando. And I hope to do many more trips in the future. But you know what? You never know. So here's my list. Here's my list of stuff that I want to do at some point. And you know what? In our next trip, and it's no secret, we are going this year. I haven't said when we're going yet. I'm going to do like a trip announcement post, and I'll probably do a trip announcement episode as well to run through what plans we actually have locked in, where we're going to stay, all that kind of stuff. That will come soon. It will come soon. The reason I haven't kind of announced it or anything like that yet is because obviously I've got the series coming out in terms of the vlogs at the moment on YouTube. I kind of don't want to like muddy the waters in terms of like kind of focusing on one thing and then I'm going to throw something else in there and then we've got the podcast. I'm just trying to focus on one thing at a time. So it's exciting. There is something in the pipeline and we might do some of these things on this trip, but you never ever know. And we might be able to do multiple trips. I might be able to do multiple trips. We'll just see what happens. So I've tried to kind of split this into categories. The categories I've got are kind of like foods and restaurants, rides, hotels, outside of the bubble, experiences, and then there's one on its own. I'll start with the one on its own. The first thing that I would love to do, and whether or not this is I'm going to say this with all of them, whether it's a bucket list or whether or not it is just something that at some point I would love to do. It wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't do it, don't get me wrong, but I would love to do this, and it's record an episode for the podcast out in Orlando. It's going to happen. I mean, inevitably it's going to happen, isn't it? Obviously, whether or not it's just me recording it, whether or not it's myself and Annie, whether or not it's myself and a guest out there, we don't know. Let's just see what happens. You know, we never know who we might be able to get on the podcast. I'm super appreciative of anyone and everyone who comes on the podcast as a guest. I love the guest episodes, and I've said this before. They are my favourite episodes to record. They really, really are. I feel very lucky to get the opportunity to chat with you all, and to kind of for you to take time out of your day to come and have a chat with me about your Orlando experiences is really special. It's really special, and I feel quite honoured to be a part of it. I really, really do. But I really do want to record an episode out in Orlando at some point. I don't know where, I don't know when, I don't know what about, but it's got to happen. If I'm doing a podcast about Orlando, I've got to do an episode in Orlando, surely. So we'll see. I'll be honest with you, that is fairly high on my list of things to do on our next trip. So it's going to happen this year. I'm telling you that much, but I don't know where, and I don't know kind of what the plan will be, but it's definitely going to happen. So the next category that I've got, so this is kind of a full category, and it is food and restaurants. I don't fully know the name of all of these places. I'm going to be real. I never pretend to be a Disney expert or an Orlando expert or a Universal expert, but I know a bit, so I will always try and say what they are called. I might call it something else. But there's a few restaurants that I know that myself and Annie want to try. And the first thing, I think there's a few kind of like in Magic Kingdom, but the first one is, I think it's called Be Our Guest. It's the kind of Beauty and the Beast one. I would quite like to do that. I will be honest, I'm not mad on like a character dining. Character dining, personally, it doesn't do a huge amount for me, but that's not to say that I wouldn't do it. Like, I appreciate it for what it is. I certainly did it when I was a lot younger, but that doesn't appeal to me as much as doing some of the other restaurants. I'm pretty sure in that one, the characters come out, but they don't necessarily like come to your table and like interact. They're just kind of like milling around. I'm pretty sure that's how that one is. So the next one on the list is actually Cinderella's Royal Table in Magic Kingdom. This is one of those that like I feel like it's a bit of a rite of passage. I know that it's fairly expensive, but I feel like this is one of those that you just kind of really want to like experience. I think you really want to just like say you've done it. I don't think it's one of those that you're going to do every and a few things on this list might become kind of like more staple things, but I think in terms of like a being happy that you've done it once, I think Cinderella's Royal Table is right up there. The next one, this is probably a bit of a silly one, but the next one on the list of somewhere that I would like to eat, because and the funny thing is, I actually think I have eaten in here, but I don't remember it well, and I don't have an appreciation for it. I'd like to eat in the Space 220 kind of restaurant in Epcot. I'm really up for that. I think that would be wicked. I know you basically get like, you've got all these screens around you kind of like on the windows, and it makes you feel like you're kind of like in space, which I think is really cool. I like that kind of theming. I think that's different. So I think that is definitely something that would be on this list in terms of somewhere that I would want to try. And again, that's a much more achievable one. I think that's one that potentially could happen on our next trip, but you never know. It might not. And going from that, there were a couple of restaurants at Animal Kingdom Lodge that I'm quite interested in, and that's Boma and Jiko. I loved Sanaa. I mean, we're going to get into Sanaa at some point, but you'll see it in the vlogs. I'm trying to think what day it is. It's probably 2 or 3 vlogs time yet until we get to the Animal Kingdom day. But honestly, Sanaa, I loved it. I think that meal at Sanaa is some of the best food that I've ever eaten, and I mean that genuinely. I know I'm super positive, and I know that I say that about a lot of stuff, but genuinely, that was top tier. It really was special, and it makes me want to go to Boma and Jiko as well. So obviously, you know, I'm a big fan of Animal Kingdom Lodge. I really, really am. So, you know, if I can experience that resort and kind of like, spend more time in there doing more different things, then absolutely any opportunity I get to kind of like be amongst that amazing hotel for longer, then I'm going to be all over it. The next place, and this is amazing because I've never actually been in there. No, well, that's a lie. I've been in there, but I've never actually kind of like had a drink in there. And I'd like to go to Ogre's Cantina. I've never had a drink in there. I don't know what it is, what's happened, but I've just never done it. So again, that's certainly on the list, and it's one of those that like it wouldn't be difficult to do it, but I've got to tick it off. It's certainly one that I just need to go, you know what, I've done it, and it might be great, it might be like, underwhelming, overwhelming. I don't know, but to say you've done it, spot on. And as a Star Wars fan, it's a bit of a travesty that I haven't done it at this point, but it is what it is. And then there's a couple of kind of foods on this kind of part of the list that I do need to try. First one is I think they're like the cheeseburger. I think they're cheeseburger. I'm going to go for it. I think they're cheeseburger bao buns. That's the one in Animal Kingdom. I need to try those. Are they in the Satuli canteen? I could be making rubbish up right now. So, like, if I'm wrong, people are going to be screaming at me, but I'm recording it, so I'm not going to start looking it up. I'm just going to go with it. But they look amazing. I've seen them on quite a lot of people's vlogs, and they look really, really good. So I'm up for trying, like, different types of foods that I love in different forms, if you know what I mean. Like, obviously, I love, like, the cheeseburger spring rolls in Magic Kingdom. So to try, like, bao bun versions, then I'm all over that as well. And this is a funny one, because I said months ago that I was going to do this, and I just didn't get round to doing it, and I don't really know how or why, but I still to this day have never had a Dole Whip, which is ridiculous. Just like, and I feel bad saying it. I feel a bit embarrassed saying it, to be honest with you, but like, I've never had one, and I know I can hear you all now. I can hear you all just thinking like, what on earth? What even are you? But it's never happened. It's gonna happen next trip. Again, when that might be, we will find out very, very soon. But it is one that is absolutely right up there in terms of it just needs to be done, because I see all these iterations of like different types of Dole Whips as well, and they all look amazing, and it's totally up my street. But for whatever reason, I just kind of haven't done it. So I need to make it more of a priority. And if I can prioritize it more, then obviously I'll ensure that it happens. And yeah, so I apologize to anyone and everyone who in this community loves a Dole Whip. I apologize profusely for my my lack of ever having one. So we'll see. It'll happen soon. There's no doubt about that. And moving on to the kind of next little section then. The next section I've got is rides. So I've only got 4 on this list. Obviously, I've done a lot of the rides in Orlando. There's no doubt about it. I've done an awful lot of them. I tell you what, I'm going to add one on. I've just said 4, and I just thought of another one as I said it. So here we go. So first one, and anyone who has seen the day one vlog will see that we did Tiana's. We loved Tiana's. Tiana's was fantastic, but we did do it in the dark. I love a ride in the dark, don't get me wrong. However, I would like to experience that in the daytime, because I felt like I probably missed loads of stuff, like on the outside bits, that I just kind of didn't see, just because it was darker. And obviously, I loved the experience of doing it in the dark. Absolutely, like, fantastic. But I do think that it would be a different experience to do it in the daytime as well. So that is definitely on the list. And I know it's a little bit out of your hands with regards to, like, the return times and stuff with virtual queues. But this time, I just need to not forget, like an absolute idiot, when we forgot to do our virtual queue because we were in, like, an absolute rush trying to get to, like, the monorail quickly and stuff. But never mind. Next one on the list is to complete all the songs on Guardians. You know, a bit of a standard amongst a lot of people, but that is definitely one that needs to be done. I mean, we've got 3 to do still. We've only managed to get 3, so I think that would be really, really good in good time. Again, it's out of my hands. I don't think it will happen this year, but over the next kind of 2 to 3 years, it's going to have happened inevitably. The more opportunities we get to ride it, And you know what? I've spoke about it a lot, but I absolutely love it. I think I think Cosmic Rewind is a special, special ride. It will never cease. It will never stop making me laugh. I think that it's funny. I think the ride itself is smooth. It's just a wonderful, wonderful ride. The theming's fantastic. I just wish that they would do more with Guardians. I feel like that area, if that area had something else, it would perhaps bring the kind of virtual queue times down a little bit for Guardians, but have just something else so that people can kind of spend more time immersed in the kind of MCU and the Guardians of the Galaxy area. So I'm a big Guardians fan. You'll see this at some point soon, I'm sure, but I am a big Guardians fan, and you know, I'm all for more Guardians of the Galaxy where possible. Next thing on the list, and there's a couple of versions of this, I suppose, but I'll put it in as one, and it's the Front Row Velocicoaster. I've never front rowed it, so it's got to be done, isn't it? But I would like to front row it day and night because, you know, as I always say, the Velocicoaster at night, I personally think goes up like a level. I think it goes up considerably just for a different experience, and it feels, I think, that extra level of thrill being in the dark as well. But to be on the front row, I mean, spectacular, surely. So that is one that is definitely going to happen at some point. Again, it might be this trip, it might not. We will basically find out in due course. It, you know, I don't want to put too much pressure on stuff like that, because if we just don't manage to get on it or don't manage to get front row or something, then, you know, it is what it is. So the other one, and this is another one, I'm sure that in years gone by I've definitely done it. In fact, I know I have done it, but I was younger at the time and I just don't remember doing it. And myself and Ali didn't do it on this trip because realistically the queues were just so high that we opted to not do it. But it's just to do I think it's just called the Safari at Animal Kingdom. We haven't done it together. I'd love to do it together. I know that Annie will absolutely love it. I remember it from when I was younger, but I don't remember it kind of clearly, if you know what I mean. So it would be really good to experience it as an adult, and I think I'll appreciate it in a different way as well. I love seeing animals. I love safari. I love that kind of thing. So, you know what? As you're gonna see in a couple of weeks' time, but Animal Kingdom, it's gone so far up in my estimations. I will be absolutely real. So for James, Snacks, Beers and Mickey Ears, I remember us talking about Animal Kingdom Lodge in one of the earlier episodes of the podcast. Like, you'll be a happy man to hear it. Jade from Time for Jade, I know that she loves Animal Kingdom as well. Big fan of it. So to both of you, as a bit of a shout out, I know that you both love the park, and there's many other people who love it as well. Like, you've all been telling me how much you love Animal Kingdom, and I'm going to back you. I think it's a special park. It's a very different day out. I think it's certainly a more chilled day out than potentially like an IOA is, but it is a special experience. The thing that I've added onto my list kind of at the end of thinking about this, and I'll put the caveat of it's not necessarily Orlando, it is Florida, but it is Iron Gwazi. But I'd love to experience Iron Gwazi at night. That thing terrifies me, but in the best way possible. I think what an absolutely unreal roller coaster. But I think doing that at night, and I don't know what the capabilities and the how it is with regards to like Busch Gardens operating at night, I'm not sure. But I would love to experience that in the dark. I think that would be exceptional. I need to look into it. I need to have a little look and see what kind of like Busch Gardens do with regards to kind of like later in the day kind of hours when it gets dark and stuff. I'm not really sure, but I'll be looking it up for absolutely certain, because that is a spectacular roller coaster. It really, really is. Next up, we've got hotels. So there's 4 for Disney. There is 1 for Universal. So Universal is going to make a feature on this. It didn't really make a feature in the restaurants, because I'm going to just going back to the restaurants really briefly, but there aren't really anything in Universal that kind of jumps out as things I want to do with regards to food. There's things like the free broomsticks, which I have done, and I'll be honest with you, is not high on my list. I think it's the Leaky Cauldron. There's, you know, so basically there is options, but they're not mega for me. And I feel like the food, while some of the food might be really good in some places in Universal, I think a lot of it is quick serve, in my opinion. And tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if there's somewhere that you've just got to go and go and have a sit down. And it might be Mythos, I'm not sure. But anyway, the hotels, we've got 4 for Disney, and I mean, I would be fairly remiss if I didn't kick off this list with Animal Kingdom Lodge, but Savannah View. Savannah View at Animal Kingdom Lodge is a dream. It really is, and we're going to make it happen. We are. So that is going to happen 100%, and I know that we will both be just absolutely in awe. And I can't wait for you to see the vlog where we do get to go to Animal Kingdom Lodge, because that was special. That was an experience that I didn't think that we were going to get anytime soon, and to have had that experience, like, blew us away. It really did. We love that. We love that hotel. We absolutely adore it. So to be able to experience Savannah View with kind of like lighter hours in the evening as well, because when we went there, it got dark fairly quick, probably within a couple of hours. So we didn't get to see kind of like the Savannah kind of out the back of the actual Animal Kingdom Lodge itself in the daylight for too long. So I'm excited for that. That is going to happen. I promise you that much, and I just cannot wait for it. The next hotel, and this is probably at the top of everyone's list, is the Polynesian. I think that at this point, I mean, it looks stunning. It looks stunning. So first and foremost, like that place looks unreal. The theming is wonderful. I think that the whole place just looks spectacular. But I feel like it's one of those that it's at the top of everyone's list. So it's just got to become a rite of passage to even just do a night there at some point. I'd love to do it. I mean, obviously, like the odds of us being able to do it anytime soon are fairly remote. But you know what? We'll try. We'll work hard for it, and we'll hopefully we'll get there at some point. And when we do, it will feel extra special, just like Animal Kingdom Lodge did. Like, when you finally get to experience these things, like the level of appreciation is just absolutely through the roof. So Polynesian, 1,000,000%. The next one, it's one that really interests me, and the reason why is because I love seeing it when you go through in the monorail, is the Contemporary. It's one of those that I think it just screams Disney, and I think that to say that you've been there and you've been kind of in that hotel. I would like to go to Chef Mickey's. I think that's what it's called. I know that's a character dining, so I'm totally going against my normal, but I think that to kind of experience that hotel, that lobby, especially with kind of like the monorail going through it, would be really, really magical. And the final one, another one on the list, and this is probably one of the more kind of like realistic ones that might be able to happen in the not too distant future, is to go to Port Orleans. A lot of people go to Port Orleans, and I think it looks like a stunning hotel as well. I think it's massive, if I remember correctly. And again, it would just be one of those. It'd be really nice to spend some time in that kind of hotel and that resort and take it all in. So that's the Disney hotels. There's obviously, the odds of them all happening anytime soon are fairly remote, but we might be able to tick one off. And Savannah View at Animal Kingdom Lodge is right at the top of that list, and we will make that one happen. That is a promise. That one is going to happen. And the final one on this list, and it is a Universal one, and this one, and I put this as like a quote unquote bucket list one, because I think that it looks spectacular, and it's Helios. I mean, obviously the place isn't even open yet, but I think at some point, to be able to kind of like stay there, open your curtains and see Epic Universe would just be a feeling like none other. I think that in terms of an immersiveness of feeling you're in that Universal bubble especially would be spectacular. I cannot wait. I can't wait to see all of your videos and all of your Instagram posts and reels and stories and all that kind of stuff about any of you guys going to Helios this year. We won't be doing Helios this year, I know that much, but I'm excited for all of you who potentially have booked it to do it, and I can't wait to see it. It looks unreal. I think that the hotel itself looks wonderful, And I think, you know what, it's a real statement from Universal as well, that I think obviously some of their hotels look amazing, and to be honest with you, as a bit of a side note, I would like to stay at quite a lot of the Universal hotels, but as a major priority, I think Helios would be absolutely at the top of that list without a doubt. Next little section that I've got is outside of the bubble. So there's quite a few things, and you know, this is Orlando Adventures podcast. I mean, there's inevitably things outside of the parks that I haven't done, but would still love to do. And the first one is to explore more of the beaches. I know when I talk to all of the guests on the guest episodes, quite a lot of people say that their favourite thing to do outside of the parks is to go to a lot of the beaches. And I have been to some of them, but I haven't been to them all. So it would be really nice to experience more of Orlando and see more of the beaches at some point as well. I really want to do a clear bottom canoe at some point. I haven't ever done that. We did actually plan to do it in 23, but everyone got a bit of a sickness bug by the end of the trip, so we weren't really feeling it by the time we got to that day, sadly. But clear bottom canoe, I think that clear bottom canoe, kayak, I'm not sure the difference. I've said this before, I'm sure of it, and I haven't brushed up on my canoe and kayak knowledge, so apologies to any canoers or kayakers that are listening. The next thing on the list, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've skirted around this one for a while. I have given it Mr. Big Guns and said that I want to do this far too often and then not done it. And it's the Orlando Starflyer. So I'm sure you've all seen this ludicrous, like, fairground style ride looking attraction thing that is over 400 feet tall. I think it's at Icon Park. Is it Icon Park? I think it's Icon Park. Could be wrong. But it's down International Drive, and that thing is monstrous. But you know what? At some point, I've got to do it. I say it every time we go, and he's like, right, let's go and do it. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not now. So that's on the list. I do want to do it. I want to experience. I know that the moment I get on it, I'll love it. But it's the anticipation of going, you know what? I actually need to to do this is putting me off a little bit. There's a couple of sports related things I'd love to do, and I'm a big football fan, as when mentioned in the Q&A episode, most recent one. I am a big football fan, so I would love to watch a football game out in Orlando for certain. I would love to watch some American sports out there as well. So whether or not that is American football, baseball, basketball, you know, I'm fair game. I'm pretty easy. I'm up for everything. So I love sports, and to be able to experience some proper American sports out there as well, I think would be a really, really good experience. And I think it's something that I'd like to make a priority potentially for our next trip, to try and do one thing, just because I think it'll be a bit different, and it'll be really kind of like, it'd be really exciting to have experienced how the Americans do sports. The next little thing, and it is just another sports related one, I've been recommending this. It was Rosie from Theme Park Traveller actually messaged me and said about this, is to go to a batting cage. So this is basically, you stand in a batting cage for like baseball, and that is totally up my street. It really is, just to go and hit some balls in a batting cage. To me, sounds like such good fun. I love things like Top Golf. I'm all for like doing some sports, and if you get to go and whack some baseballs, I'm down for that. So Rosie, that was a great shout. I will try to do it at some point. Whether or not it's next trip, I'm not sure, but there will certainly be an opportunity to do it one day, and I won't forget it because I think it's a great suggestion. And then there's two final ones in the kind of outside of the bubble section of this list, and they're both up in the air, funnily enough. And the first one, so actually Anna from Ocean, Florida mentioned this one in their episode a couple of weeks ago, and it's a great shout, by the way. And it's to go and do one of the helicopter tours. I think that the views that you could get of Orlando would be absolutely stunning. I'd love to do it. I really would at some point. I'm a little bit nervous. About a helicopter. I don't know. I feel like there's a little stigma of helicopters and accidents. But you know what? I would love to experience those views from a helicopter tour. And talking about up in the air, I always remember, and I remember this is going back quite a few episodes at this point, but going back to the Devonshire Diz one with Adam from the Devonshire Diz, he mentioned the hot air balloon, kind of like the hot air balloon ride. It looks amazing. It really does, and it's one of those things that I've always kind of like spotted and noticed for years, and I always remember it going back to about 2008. Kind of like I went for a walk around the hotel with my dad, and just remember like 7 a.m. in the morning. It might be earlier than that, but just kind of walking around the resort and just seeing all of these hot air balloons up in the air, and just thinking I'd love to do that at some point, and that's stuck with me for obviously a long time, and I still haven't done it. So I've got to make it happen. It's got to happen at some point. I'm sure it will. And inevitably when we do it, it'll be absolutely magical. And just to be able to see Orlando from a very different angle will be special. I'm absolutely sure of that. And the final little section is experiences. And I know that there's a lot of experiences, and a lot of these are Disney related as well. But there's a lot of things I do want to try. And the number one thing, and the feedback I've got from this current experience is mega. And it's the Keys to the Kingdom tour. I know that it's not for everyone. And to be honest with you, I don't really think it's for Annie. I think it might be a Russ doing it on his own, or Russ doing it with someone else at some point. But Keys to the Kingdom, I'm pretty sure is like a 5-hour walking tour. It's a long thing. And you know what? I can understand that for some people it'd be like, well, I'm not getting any value out of my actual ticket in Orlando, actually out of my ticket in Magic Kingdom. So do I really want to be spending half of my day doing a walking tour? Well, you know, each to their own, but I love kind of like finding out the secrets and seeing things behind the scenes and backstage and stuff. So Keys to the Kingdom sounds like it's totally up my street, which would be absolutely fantastic to do at some point. Next one, and I remember seeing this one on a T&J, a Tom and Jess video a few months ago, and it's the dessert party at Magic Kingdom as well, where you pay to get your ticket, you go and get loads of different desserts, but you then get to sit and watch the fireworks from a different angle as well, but you actually get a designated seat to be able to do so as well. I think it's on a first come first served basis. So if you get there early doors, you'll basically lock yourself down a good view of the fireworks from where you are at the dessert party itself. Another one for Disney is the Wild Africa Trek. I know that quite a lot of you have probably done this, or you've certainly seen aspects of this tour as well. This is totally a me and Annie thing. This is totally up our street, and you know what? At some point, again, I can see us doing it. Whether or not it's this next trip, I'd love to make it happen. I don't know if it will, but we'll see. If I can manifest it into happening, then absolutely, I think that we would do it in a heartbeat. It's totally the kind of thing that I know that we would both enjoy massively. There's one other Disney thing, and I don't have an awful lot of control over this one at the moment, if I'm absolutely real. I might do at some point. I'm not sure. And that isn't kind of cryptic. I'm just saying at some point, you never know. But I would love to be able to do a DVC event, kind of like a DVC after hours event. I see these kind of experiences and these events happen, and they look great. They look really good fun. And I think just to be able to experience the parks at a slightly more quiet time and would be absolutely magical. It really, really would. I'd love to do it. I think that inevitably at some point, we might get an opportunity, and whether or not that's us being DVC kind of like members in the future, and that's not in the plans, and so don't read anything into it. But you know, you never know. We might get an opportunity to do it at some point, and if we do, then I would be absolutely buzzing for that. So the next one on the list would be I think it's the Orlando Informer event at Universal, and I know that sometimes this doesn't get the best of reviews. So I'm going to take it with a pinch of salt that I'd like to do it, but I also don't want to have a bad experience. I feel like I've paid for something and not really got any value from it, if you know what I mean. So it's there with an asterisk. But I would like to experience Universal kind of after hours. I think that would be a really, really great experience. And obviously I'm a big IOA fan. So to be able to experience any of those rides in the dark after hours would be amazing. while we're at Universal, I've got to put Halloween Horror Nights on it. I haven't done it. I've got Halloween Horror Nights. He's got to be on that list, isn't it? And Ashley and Emma, I'm sure, will be very, very happy to hear it. But it's going to happen at some point. I'm not sure when. I want to make it happen. We'll see. Just watch this space is all I can say. And there aren't plans to do it this year at this point. I know that I said it later in the year last year that basically our plans had changed, and unfortunately October just wasn't working out as planned for what we were planning to do. But you never know. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. And then the other thing, I'd love to do Mickey's Not So Scary as well. These are a couple of events that I really would like to experience, and I feel bad that I haven't done them at this point, but at the same time, like, you know, it's great to have these things on the list so that, you know, when it comes to doing it, it's going to feel even more extra special. So there's quite a lot. There's a lot of stuff on this list, and you know what? It's, for me, it's quite good to have this list, and I know it's a similar thing to what I did in the 2025 one in terms of stuff that I wanted to do this year, but this, I think, is more of a deep dive. This is more of a, let's get into like stuff that one day I might be able to achieve, and one thing I might be able to, you know, one day I might be able to actually do. Like, I'm not going to go on my next trip, go and do a hot air balloon, do a, you know, like a helicopter tour, go and stay at the Polynesian, go and stay at Animal Kingdom Lodge, Helios, go to Epic Universe. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do all of these in one trip. It's not going to happen. So I'm talking multiple trips over multiple years. You know, like I said at the start as well, I'm just genuinely appreciative, and I feel so lucky that I even get to do these trips, you know, as frequently as even I'm doing them, and people do them a lot more frequently than I do as well. Anyway, that rounds off my lists. I hope you've all enjoyed this. I really, really do. And you know what? As ever, I always love rounding an episode off with a thank you, because I'm just so appreciative. I'm so appreciative of the amazing support that you all show myself. You all show me amazing support. You show the podcast amazing support. Now the YouTube as well. The Orlando Adventures store is there as well. And, you know, I love seeing when, you know, obviously people order stuff, but when they kind of rock the t-shirts or the pins or the socks, you know, whatever it may be, in a park at home or wherever you are, it honestly, it warms my heart. It does. I love seeing it. And you're all amazing. You really are. I love chatting with you all. I love, you know, send me a message on Instagram, or, you know, share the pod, or tag me in something. I'm all over it. I will always make time to respond and to thank you for watching, listening, sharing, because it really, really does mean the world to me. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this one, and I will speak to you all in the next one.